100 Years, 100 Voices. A St. John Centennial Oral History project conceived and produced by WSJS Radio, where every day is history. We're here with Adina Tartak Pitt, class of 1998, and
88.
Of 1988.
Or we can pretend.
I was just going to say that's nice.
What do you remember most about St. John's? What is dearest to you in your memory?
Probably, and this is going to sound probably a little cliche, but my friends. And I think second to that, the plays, participating in the plays in high school. But that's not fair because I was here for 13 years, so there were probably, 100 memories per year that I could dissect. And, with each stage of your tenure at an institution, you grow and you try new things. So I think every year brought something new, whether it was helping a friend with an election campaign, helping an event at the school, doing your college applications, or even, it could be anything. I'm thinking more recent years as opposed to my elementary school years. But I think one of my biggest memories was being in gym class when the gym teacher came to me to tell me that my mother had had my brother. And I wanted a girl so badly, and she whispered in my ear, "You have a baby brother," and I burst into tears. And Mrs. Almonte, our gym teacher at the time, thought, how special. She's crying because she's so emotional. I was crying because I wanted a girl. But I went across the street and saw the baby, and I remember it changed my life. And I came back. They let me go across the street to see the baby, and I came back in because he was at Ashford Medical, at Presbyterian, rather. And I came back into the classroom, and it was like this celebration for a week in fourth grade because I had a baby brother. So I think that, even going back to when I was a little girl, so many things happened in my life, both scholastically and personally, that happened at St. John's, and that somebody at St. John's witnessed it and experienced it with me, and that shaped me.
How did those particular experiences at this particular school shaped you to the person you are today?
Well, it's like having this incredible trampoline where you would never fail because there was always somebody there, and there was no judgment. We were talking about this earlier, where you could really have your own identity and be perfectly comfortable in your skin because it was okay. And I couldn't think of a more liberating way to grow up than with no judgment and without fear. And, if you knew you couldn't fail, what wouldn't you do? So, people tried things that perhaps in another environment you just wouldn't do for fear of judgment or failure. It was stripped of that, and it wasn't tolerated.
What do you recall most about not just the school environment, but as a Puerto Riqueña growing up here?
I mean, this is a great place to grow up. No matter where I go, this will always be home. And, again, as I get older, those ties get stronger. So even though you're not living here, it doesn't mean that your heart isn't here. And, my mother always says we make plans and God laughs, but the truth is that is the truth. If I had my druthers, my kids would be in school with my friends' kids. Some of my biggest memories of the Condado were the lack of parking, going to school, trying to get here at 7:30 in the morning so that I could find a parking spot, because I lived pretty far away at the time. And we had our little hangouts, which was nice, but actually it's interesting. Many of us, even though we had privileges to leave the school, and I know this kind of deviates from your question, but I remember very vividly having lunch in the cafeteria with my friends, particularly senior year, that we chose to stay together and have lunch more often than not. And I do remember that. We would do all kinds of kooky diets and stuff.
I remember running to Popeyes.
Oh, well, we did that
in
too.
45 minutes.
Yeah, we did that too.
Having
and
lunch.
Wolfing down biscuits and chicken. Yeah.
Exactly. And then running
Or country. What was the name of that horrible pizza place next door?
Country style.
Country style. Really should have been called health department violation.
Croquetas.
No, we would.
And
I
D-Day.
remember
We
Mrs.
remember D-Day.
Of course.
We had double block. And
I remember
Howard
Mrs.
Johnson's.
Bolivar asking us in history class, would somebody go to country and get me a jelly donut and a coffee with sweet and low to cut the calories? Remember that? That was funny.
Talking about the teachers, how did the teachers influence you? Do you have any particular memories?
Oh, probably way too many to mention, but I will say, even starting with Mrs. Smith and who at the time, and Mrs. Myatt, who at the time was Miss Donovan, who were my kindergarten teachers, I can remember the names of probably every teacher I had. Mrs. McKay in first grade, I remember them all. And the older you get, the bonds with your teachers are different. But what's so interesting is that now, as a grown-up and as a parent, and as someone who unfortunately is not here to have her kids go to school, we keep in touch via Facebook, and that has been fantastic because your relationship then becomes, they were always my mentors, but now they're my friends. And we can reflect on what it was like for them to be our teachers, but also what it was like for us to be their students. And I have never felt more strongly than some of the teachers some of them who are still here, but the ones who I had, with very few exceptions, and even the ones that weren't so great were great, let's be honest. They were so involved in our lives in a very important way. Like, they really wanted you to succeed. And there was always that extra mile. It was a way of life for them, and that was very, very clear to me. And as illustrated, by the way, that the fact that all of the clubs that we belonged to and everything, there's always a teacher attached to that. It was never the students running it. There was always the French club with Madame Beaumont, right? There was the Interact club. There was forensics. There was OAS with Mrs. Bolivar. Every time there was an event, there was a teacher attached to it. And that was very special.
Anything else you would like to add that you would want maybe the younger generation to know about St. John's, that in your experience?
That's a tough question. Puerto Rico is very small, and St. John's is a part of a small place, but it actually holds a very big place on a small island. And certainly, as you go on, wherever you go off in your life, it becomes an even bigger part of who you are. So I think it's truly your alma mater, and you should. I hope that students would, really take advantage of everything the school has to offer, and then give back to the extent that they can. And it's not just a school where you go and forget. It's your family, so they should. I hope they care about it as much as I know the school cares about them. Adina Tartak Pitt, class of 1988.